Hello, and welcome back to my Comprehending Consciousness series. My name is Allie from amariespeaks.com, and I have created this series hopefully as sort of a stepping stone for people who are newly waking up or new to the conscious community or the New Age, or maybe kind of been put off by it previously. I'm hoping this is going to be like a starting line, sort of, to help people really dig into their own understandings of these terms. Because a lot of them are kind of thrown out about in the mainstream world and never really dived into, never really fully tasted, I guess. People just kind of like eat it, swallow it. It's like when you're eating too fast and you never even get to taste your food, right? We just hear these words, Mother Earth, like New Earth, 5D, woke, asleep, red-pilled. So many things, duality, non-duality, these concepts that we can get really surface level info only on, and it just floats by, and then we're like, oh yeah, I totally know, I heard all about that. It doesn't really mean that much. We get thinking that it's really frivolous, when in fact they're really iceberg terms, right? Like I've said before in other episodes, like it's just the tip of the iceberg here. There's this huge body of knowledge, research, all other angles to come at it from, so much knowledge on each one of these things that I hope I spark curiosity for people to go diving on their own and really spend time looking at other sources and other ways, other angles of each of these things, because it's so important as we're waking up that this is what we learn to do, right? Discernment, seeking, searching. I hate to say researching, because so many people, I feel like they have like PTSD from public school days, or like indoctrination from universities and things, where you're like forced to memorize or forced to learn, and people really hate that. And so they hear research, or they think, oh, I've got to do my own research. Well, that takes so much time. Oh, it's so like hard. Their like brain hurts just thinking about the word, right? I know so many people. I am not that kind of person. I'm born on a 7-day and a 7-year. I absolutely love learning and research and collecting of knowledge. It comes naturally to me, like playing basketball does to some people. Just something that I enjoy to love to do. So hopefully with these videos, quick kind of blurbs, they might be inspiring to people to go and check other resources, or just to hear different perspectives. I try to give lots of the perspectives that I've come across in these quick videos, not just like my personal opinion of what I think it is, that's it, but also I've heard it this way, I've heard it this way. Try to use lots of different descriptions too, to just opening up the definitions, right? So, thank you for my preamble for this episode 12, which is going to be on the divine masculine and feminine. Sometimes you hear sacred masculine and feminine. Sometimes we hear it referred to as things like twin soul, soulmates, and it's multi-dimensional, multifaceted, right? And it can be looked at in lots of different angles. It's a patterning of duality, basically. And so I chose to do this one next. It's come in line, but it's also episode 12 is perfect, I feel, in numerology, because the 12, 1 and 2, right? 1 is the initial idea of real duality. The 1, the observer, encompassing all of duality, and 2 is the separation, the choice point, right? And also when we talk about the number 12, usually in numerology, if 12, we don't reduce to 3. If we were to look at it as 12, it's the choice points built off of an original idea or creation. A creation that's already been talked about and circled back around, and, a firm standing creation that's now being built upon a second layering, because we're moving into the 10 place, right? So it's a second layering to the original frame, theme, or idea. But now we're at a new choice point, a new view of duality over that spectrum, right? So the initial foundational choice, we talked about just duality, what that means, right? The black, white, night, day, opposites kind of thing, right? And I did talk just slightly about male and female and masculine and feminine, and how the human race is also can be seen on this spectrum of working, right? And so 12, that number really is going to work perfectly for the series, because now we can bring it up a layer or down, more defined in our focusing of duality, and bring it down into humanity's duality, right? Of masculine and feminine. And so it's very obvious, first and foremost, when we're talking about the sexes, that we are talking about literally, I'm a woman and man, that is a very obvious example. However, when we're talking about divine or sacred, masculine and feminine, we're talking about that essence, that original template, that untainted idea of sort of the best, right? The ultimate possibilities, right? And not all of us always or will ever really tap into and embody our divine essences, We come here to balance that, to do working with that. And that's what this structuring in place is all about. And I went really into this in the side video that I'll probably put up on BitChute as like a bloopers extra side note video, like I did with Mother Earth, because I went on a tangent for like 20 minutes about the structuring of human evolution, and how it's really been distorted with the masculine and feminine, and used for an agenda, and how we're really getting that played against each other right now to cause confusion and to really detour our ascension as a human population in general, right? We can have done as much confusion and as much negative energy and division between the sexes as possible, so that they can really divert and ensure that we don't harmonize and rise, right? Because they can't have that. That's rule number one, obviously. You can't have your workforce teaming together and rising and taking off. Especially when they're your food, energy, and your entire thing that keeps your whole agenda going. Anyways, if you're interested in more of that aspect of that, definitely go over, and I'll put a link to the BitChute bloopers video that I go on about that. But here I really want to stay focused on what the energies look like, right? Not about how we've been carried away to get away from them, but that they do exist, and that when we look out in nature and we see biology, it's very clear that there's two sexes, and that they do different things, they have different roles, and that they work together symbiotically to do other things, and however, like I was saying, we come in with these imbalances with our energies, and so we struggle with these things. That's why we're supposed to be here, right? To kind of learn how to work through these struggles and to become better, more harmonious versions. And so when I was talking about the filtering, right, when we talk about divine masculine and feminine, we can bring it down and look at humans and how I embody my own divine feminine, right? And how in my life I can really work to harness the feminine energy to be a great wife, a great mother, a great partner, a great friend, a great daughter, a great sister, and all of the things that that female energy encompasses, right? That's one aspect of it. And same thing, say, with my husband, like he can really embody a divine masculine energies and really hone in on what it means to be a great father, a great husband, a great son, a great brother. And those energies, right? They are very different. And it can be very beautiful. And it's only as triggering and as negative as you allow it to be, right? But if you can calm back and relax and allow yourself to maybe not get so wrapped up in the toxic side. Oh, but this gets toxic. Oh, but too much of this is so toxic. This can be this way when it gets so out of balance. Let's look at how it can be so negative. And it's like, yes, we have 101 beautiful examples of toxic masculinity, of toxic femininity, of how the feminism encompassed way too much masculinity in its sort of like rah-rah feminist movement, and how they tried to just be more manly than the men and beat them in that way, if you can't beat them, join them kind of attitude. That's so much of that feminist rising kind of movement ended up evolving into, or really like, gaining a polarity charge of, because, it's agendaed and it's lassoed and it's steered and aligned in a certain direction. But anyways, we have great examples of that, and I don't want to get too wrapped up in that and create, exploration and manyness of the toxicity, because we've been doing that so great for so long that let's bring balance in, right? Let's talk about the beautiful, positive, the sacred side of it, right? And for the feminine, this is patience, temperance, nurturing, right? The holding space, the hug, the caring, the caregiver, right? The one who soothes and heals and is just there with unconditional love, who, has this empathetic side to them that they can, that they get you on an internal side, because the feminine's the moon, the emotions, the water type of ever-flowing, changing, go with the anything, can feel the hard, the sad, the good, the bad, really with everything. The woman, the feminine energy, right? Because of its harness with temperance, time, and understanding purpose and long run of things, right? It just creates a space, just like a mother with a baby, right? We don't rush an infant to eat faster, or to kick its little legs harder, or to start walking now, or to crawl, or start talking, like the mother just helps it along. Every step of the way, the little new thing it does, it creates a little bit more space for it. It sees what it's doing, it appreciates the new movement, the new strength that it's got, and it helps it to build it slowly and at its own pace, right? That energy is what I'm talking about, and what we all talk about when we talk about sacred feminine, right? And so sacred masculine is that rock, that stability, that pillars, right? That you always have a safety net around you of protection from whatever intrusions might occur, right? Because the feminine energy is very internally based, and it's very homemaking. It creates this space to happen within. But what about the external world that's always still there? It needs boundaries, it needs a shell, it needs protection, pillars, house, a foundation around it, right? The energy of the feminine creates the home feel, but the male creates the physicality of the home that they literally live in, right? They build the house. Men are more better at physical things, naturally speaking, because they are action bringers. They rise. They input information, right? And just like we get back to a very physical representation, the woman in the chalice takes in and holds and creates inside in depth, whereas the male structuring, it pokes out and inserts and delivers, right? And the masculine sacred energy is that it rises, it meets the exterior world with boundaries, protection for that beautiful inner sacred feminine space of love, because it knows the love. It sees, it feels the love. It's just as true. It's unconditional love, that connection, the cord, the velvet rope is just the same for masculine and feminine. We have the same capacity of feeling of it. It's the way that we show and use and we create with it that's very different. And but the twisting has made it seem like men have a less or don't have one at all, but they really do. And it's because they do. They respect and value that cord and connection and love, that they want to protect and hold the feminine energy inside, and they want to allow it its beautiful bubbled space. They want to protect it because they know there is energetic, there's an outside energetic body taking place, and other types of energy that are sacred masculine are things like doing, right? Action, building, speaking out, words, right? Directing, focus. And so when we can work really great together, the sacred masculine and feminine, that's when we can see great ideas and creations really being built and working really well, because the woman's energy can really have that kind of fluid changing, shake it up, test it out, flow, where the man can really listen and hear it and direct the physicality of whatever is happening or whatever's being built or created or managed or whatever, right? He can really put it to action and get it done. And that's not to say, that women can't do things either, because this is now, I'll take it to our inner level, right? So now we've kind of talked about how we are, the sexes, men and female, and we are in the, physical bodies and stuff, but it's so important to remember that now we filter the lens in tighter to our unique self. I have my own divine masculine and feminine within my own self, within my own soul. It is as old as time. It is its own unique version of twin soul, soulmate energy that I embody, and that my lifetimes, my energy working, my unique soul purpose, fractal of Source God, is working to balance and correct itself in. Because, right, we're each our own unique reflections. So yes, I, as a woman in the 3D world here in America, I can be married to a man, and we can represent the beautiful sacred union of divine masculine and feminine, and we can play roles in that point that really highlight and resonate with what we assume to be masculine and feminine, right? But there's a whole other side of the working, and a whole more important initial side that we really should get into and be focused on, which is our internal masculine and feminine, and how to work, balance, and make a harmonious existence for ourselves with both of those. Because that relationship is the most important. And that really sets the tone for every exterior relationship that you'll ever be a part of, right? And it's so important for us to realize that and to not be afraid of that, right? And to not be like, oh, wait a minute. I feel myself here as a woman. I feel that male energy. Oh, I feel like and this is real, true, personal energy for myself, right? In my own experience, I had, like, in my awakening, I had this vision of energy centers inside of myself with beautiful, like, goddesses, right, that I was seeing in each one of my energy centers, and like a beautiful painting sort of image that I was giving kind of as a download, like, years ago, near the beginning of my meditating and stuff. And it was like, it was this image, and all the centers had, like, beings inhabiting them, and they inhabited an evolution of what that chakra center, that energy center, is really all about. However, my heart center had a king, a man, sitting on a throne, and I was very put off by that. Because I was like, whoa, why do I have this male energy? And I've always had kind of a tomboy thing. When I was a kid, I was a tomboy. And I had a lot of male friends. I never clicked with the classic female kind of energy, nails, hair, shopping, gossip, TV, fashion kind of thingy. That wasn't really, I tried to make it at one point my thing, but it really wasn't. But I'm sharing this to say that these days, stuff like this could be taken to whole other extremes, right away. Like, that, like, oh, you must be a man inside. And, like, I see that so much happening now. And then when this happened to me, to myself, I was like, what? Like, kind of, but this was also close to 10 years ago, It wasn't as, like, today it's very, like, there's a sliding scale, like, a transitionary thing happening, a real push to, like, slide you over there if you have even the slightest thought patterns that could, like, resonate with the other sex, However, I realized, wait a minute, I have, like, both energies inside of me, these sacred masculine and feminine, and it's a working to find a harmonious balance, right? And maybe I've been a male closer in my past lives or something, or maybe I just have a lot more polarity gained in this, my negative toxic masculinity kind of side, or maybe I have more of that harmonious sacred masculine energy. Maybe I feel more innately protective and dominant and more of a doer, So I tried to really open myself up and not get in a fear zone, especially about that. And that, over years of different bringings in and workings and learning between exploration of, like, sacred masculine and feminine, I came to this more working understanding of the inner twin flame, of the soulmate within yourself, right? Of your unique twin flame body that lifetimes you work to evolve and become the best in between balanced human that you can be, And it's not, and I'll get into this later, but I really feel like this is why they've stole that image, that idea of, like, finding the balance between sacred masculine and feminine, and they distorted it and took it in, like, in a sacrilegious kind of way, like blasphemy, made it into, like, this transhuman neutrality, gender, no gender kind of middle ground to a really fake mean or average, right? A really shallow, not actually searching for the real problem, just putting a stamp on it. Well, gender neutrality then. Bam. Everybody's equal. In between, nobody's nothing. However, that working that can only come from each human finding this sacred masculine and feminine within themselves, doing the balancing work, seeking the harmoniousness between themselves, and then learning what that working looks like. We take it into our exterior relationships whatever kind it might be, even if they aren't a traditional male and female relationship, you know what I mean? Even if it is something different and you guys are embodying versions or different levels of the two, masculine and feminine, in your own ways, you know? And that's beautiful, that's great. I'm not saying it has to be a traditional, wholesome kind of idea, you know. I particularly resonate with that in my own self, but I don't think that everybody does, and I don't think the working only has to be done in that way. However, the working must be done. To be slapping these band-aids over things to just get it to be gender neutrality is, you know, spiritual bypassing. It's feeding shadows. It's causing way more problems in the long run, right? But at the end of the day, you know, it can only be done in the first working. You can only do it in here first, get it going, and then you learn so much more when you start to interact with others. You see them doing the working, you talk about them with it, you work in your own relationships, you know, how you can play off your own, and you learn the acceptance, the give and the take, which I think is what we're really here to do. And I really believe that's, you know, why we have the duality split in the beginning. And I'm going to get into that more when I talk a little bit more about this term social memory complex. And I will get into, I don't know, I haven't decided quite where I'm going to go with these, because there's some terminologies here that are distinct to like the law of one learnings that I just love the word choices they use to describe these things, because they bring it down to a real like kind of 3D analytical way to look at things. And then when you can you hear those real scientific words and the working that can be, and then you parallel it with the more hippy-dippy out there sort of conscious collective, say, because that's social memory complex. What we say is that could be like the conscious collective or the Akashic, you know, these things that we envision as being hard to describe because they're energetic bodies, you know, of the thought world. It's gonna be kind of hard to grasp what the heck that's even talking about. Some of the word choices and the descriptions from like the law of one bring in more of an analytical view, and it makes the working a little bit more understandable for people, especially if you're coming from that angle. So I might do like a explanation of that. However, it's important on the human evolutionary side point of it to see that the working and the purpose, you know, is for the divine masculine and feminine to find this harmonious working point in between the two, you know. We can only get there by accepting the other side for what they are and valuing them for what they are and saying, hey, you can have valuable input. We can work together to hear different sides, different views, and without this forceful judgment or without the victimization, without defensive feelings, right? So hopefully we'll get there. And I really believe that understanding the basics of divine sacred essence of the two, right? And seeing it for the positivities. Yes, we know there's negatives and we don't want to be embodying negatives. We want balance. Balance in all things. But let's discover and look about what that means, right? Balance in all things. So let's look at the positives of masculine and feminine and how we can embody those better in our own worlds and how we can balance our own energies better, right? So hopefully this video has been informative. I went like 15 minutes over the time I really wanted to, but it's a really deep topic, and it's such a charged vocabulary words right now, and a charged theme that I feel like I can't just bleep, drop it and leave it, without it being taken and run with in the wrong directions, right? So if I could urge anybody and everyone, and myself included, constant discernment, vigilance, right? Accepting and openness in diverse understandings of things, right? Work as hard as we can to avoid jumping to conclusions, the worst case scenario. Avoid that verbal vomit of you have to say the toxic most worst thing that it could possibly be and that has grown into, because it's like crying over spilled milk at this point, right? We all know the toxicity. We all see the extremes. We are supposed to be witnessing them and now working with that to find the solutions, in the middle ground, the things that, okay, we don't want that. What do we want? Let's work in the what do we want? What can we do good together? Well, how can we benefit here, right? What could solutions look like? What could integration of my masculine and feminine really look like, right? And it also starts a beautiful working in yourself of what are your toxics? How are you embodying toxic masculinity? How are you embodying or enabling toxic femininity? How are you displaying those toxic sides in your own life? Not what characters out there, which member of your family you feel is toxic, or if your boss or whoever embodies toxic masculinity so much or whatever. That is not the exercise. That is not what the seeking or true searching is about, right? It's going into yourself and saying, hey, how am I embodying toxicity, right? Am I infringing on others? Am I micromanaging? Am I pushing my opinion on others? Am I allowing space? Am I making comments to critique, or am I offering comments for clarity, right? That sort of conscious working and balancing is what it really should be about, and what we can all always do. Nobody's done doing that work. Nobody ever does too much of that work, right? Every day you can get up in the morning and commit to doing that little bit. And you will seriously be, and I have been, and I still am, amazed and in awe, inspired by the universe's responses to these small little positive exercises that just of alchemizing energy, of working with both of them, of seeking balance, of feeling the bad, of assessing it for what it really is, not to shut it up, not to band-aid it, like I was saying about like the gender fluidity, not to just say, okay, well, everything's neutral then, and we'll just let people just decide whenever, and don't you dare have masculine or feminine, now don't put it on them, because you could confuse them or something. No, it's about when there's confusion, when there is unbalance happening, that we go into which one is higher or lower or seeking or hurting or screaming out, and we work with that just to give it what it needs to bring it into balance with the rest. So starting small ways in your own life, and then in your own home and with your own relationships, that's all the working that ever needs to be done, and the whole universe is going to clear itself up. All of humanity is going to clear its reflection up if we all do these little workings, And also, mainly, we won't be tricked by the nonsense BS of the Matrix trying to tell us that that's not real, that seeking of harmonious balance in between the two can't happen, that's impossible or something, or that it's not real. We have to just constantly remind ourselves that, that is an inversion technique. That's a trap to keep us disoriented and in these lower vibes or confused, so that they can siphon our energy, right? Because they can't use your divine, sacred, masculine, and feminine. Okay, so now thank you so much for listening to me. If you've watched for the whole, half an hour, I hope you enjoyed. Episode number 12 on divine masculine and feminine. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, I highly suggest checking them out. Excuse me. And I'll catch you next time for the next episode. In the meantime, if you'd like to find me on Telegram, BitChute, or YouTube, I guess. Always find me directly on my site, amariespeaks.com, where I offer tons of free tools and references all about keeping our ish together, introspection, spirituality, and happiness. So you can find all of my my writings and tons of references of others that I've enjoyed along the years stored up over there. And so until next time, I hope you have a beautiful day or evening wherever in the world you are. Thank you so much for your contribution to the collective.